Esther Perel, welcome back to the show.
Pleasure to be here again with you, Dan.
Let me start with this question.
Yeah.
What is...
I'm always like, hey, what's going to be his opening question? But yes, I'm all ears.
Oh, man, I don't mean to spark that kind of apprehension in my
It's good. It's
conversation.
good. It's
Okay.
curiosity complete. No.
You talk about eros a lot, E-R-O-S.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
The original meaning, the mystical meaning, the historical meaning of eros is life force. Creativity, engagement, aliveness, vibrancy, vitality, imagination. It really is only very recent that the word has been kind of reduced to its sexual meaning, to a set of repertoire and techniques and urges and accoutrements. And to feel erotic is to feel alive. And that sometimes happens in the midst of acute pain too. It is not just an exalting experience. The erotic applies to all areas. It applies to art, to work, to relationships, to nature, to daily life. So that's when everybody knows the difference between something that isn't dead and something that is alive, a relationship that isn't dead and a relationship that is alive, a project, a person. That distinction is very, very important. Modern life, I think, sometimes depletes the erotic. It overthinks, it over-isolates, it numbs, it tries to reduce every uncertainty into something that can be easily fixed and calculated. So that's for me the erotic. When do you feel most alive is a question that probes the erotic.
So let me ask you that question, Esther. When do you feel most alive? I'm curious.
I feel most alive when I sing, and especially if I sing with others, when I laugh with others. My experiences are often quite collective in nature, actually. They're less solitary. When we are a group of dear friends or my family and my friends around a table, super engaged in stories and conversation. I think movement is probably the thing that dancing of any kind are all experiences when I feel alive, energized, vibrant.
When you say that modern life depletes eros, is it that many, if not most of us, are not having these experiences of what I believe Emil Durkheim called collective effervescence? Yeah.
Yes. Not enough. You see, here we are, you and I, we are talking. We're trying to reach each other. We, on the one hand, can have this conversation that if I was living far away, we would not. But on the other hand, we are not in the presence of each other. We are not able to be tactile. We're not able to see each other. We're not really having eye contact. And I do think that in real life is a major element of the erotic experience. It is sensory. It is sensual. It involves the entire being, not just words, basically. So that's the first thing about modern life depletes it. I also think that the erotic exists in a space that is much more ambiguous. It's not a place of certainty. It's a place of serendipity. It's a place of curiosity, of exploration, of discovery. And these days, many of us tend to lean on the side of rules and safety and security and less on the side of openness, risk, adventure. So that too numbs the erotic. If you're constantly wanting to be sure about things, then, certainty is the enemy of change.
What do you think are the negative impacts on us from having the erotic depleted in our lives? And again, the erotic in the most broad sense of that term.
Eroticism, as in aliveness, vibrancy, vitality, is an antidote to death or deadness. On the flip side of feeling alive is feeling dead, deadened, flat, muted, numb, dull. Those are the words that accompany it. Alive doesn't mean excited. Life means feeling in touch with life, with its vibrancy, that's why I say it's very important to understand that you can feel very alive in the midst of grief, but you're feeling something with an intensity. The flip side of that is isolation, disconnection, numbness, and deadness. You can have it inside of you, and you can have it in relationships, and you can have it in companies, and you can have it in various places that once used to be creative hubs. So it is actually a major source of energy, and we all know in the body that energy precedes blood flow. If you have no energy, you have nothing to start with. It's true for all kinds of other mechanics as well. So when I talk about the erotic, I talk about an energy. It's not a particular situation. It's energetic. Everyone understands when you feel alive, you sit differently. Your body has a different position. Your chest is open. Your arms are open. That is very different from this.
She
This means
she has her neck down in her phone, for the listeners.
Yes, I'm leaning forward. I'm lifting my shoulders. I'm lowering my head. I'm slouching in. I may be comfortable, but I'm expecting nothing. No surprise. The erotic is a field of mystery and surprise, which is what makes us feel alive and makes us want to get up in the morning and see what does today hold for me. So on the other side, when I say deadness, I could say depression, melancholy, anxiety, but I don't want to just use psychological terms. I want to use actually existential terms. And the erotic is essential because it's an antidote to deadness. It's where hope resides too, by the way, for those for whom that is a word. Aspiration, hope, longing.
For the people who are listening who are introverts, and I have a lot of introverts in my life who would much rather be wearing comfy socks and splayed out on the couch than going with me to the parties I like to go to. They may be thinking, well, I'm exempt from everything Esther is describing. What would you say to anybody reaching that conclusion?
But you're not. When you listen to music alone, you can listen to music and it transcends, it transports. When you are deeply immersed in a novel, it also has to do with being immersed in something and feeling something deeply. It doesn't have to be collective. But by the way, many introverts like to be with people on occasion. They just have they need a lesser dose of it, and they need to replenish by themselves. That doesn't mean they don't like to be in the company of people. But I think you may not want to go to a club, but you may want to be very pleased to dance with 3-4 friends. You may want to just listen to music and music that really kind of penetrates your pore. You may want to write. You may want to do clay work. I mean, the tactile is extremely important too. So I absolutely don't think that there is a connection between introvert versus extrovert. The centrality of the erotic and eroticism in our life, maybe to the particular expression of it. Yeah, of course. Why not? There's a broad range. Walking in nature, even if you like to do it by yourself, or looking at art, or all these experiences that connect you also with the aesthetic dimension and the regeneration, because in nature, things die and come back. I mean, it's generative, and that means it is alive. I think you may want different things than what I described myself, because I'm like you, I'm much more of an extrovert, but I live with one who doesn't need nearly the same amount of social events as I do. And but he's deeply connected to the erotic. So don't feel left out is what I'm saying to the introverts. You're completely connected to this dimension of life.
Another area of the erotic that we haven't gotten to yet, I know from personal experience, hanging out with you is important to you, is food.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everyone knows the difference between food for sustenance and food for pleasure and connection. It's the same idea as when I say a relationship, that isn't dead, that just is surviving, and a relationship that is thriving and feels alive. It often involves pleasure as well, but it involves intensity. Food is extremely important to that. And I've never known that people want to understand the difference between introverts and extroverts as it relates to food necessarily. Interestingly, food transcends that, right? But there is something about that nurturing that creativity that goes into cooking. For some people, it's not my thing, but that imagination, that element of surprise, I put that and that together. I had no idea. Wow. That first spoon that you take, I mean, it's filled with all the erotic ingredients: discovery, surprise, mystery, pleasure, connection. It's very, I think food is probably the one I would put above many others because we all eat.
Tell me if you think I'm hearing you correctly. With what I'm hearing, if I am hearing you correctly, I really agree with it, which is that introverts need connection with the world and with other people. They just might need fewer interpersonal connections than unreconstructed extroverts like Esther and Dan.
Unreconstructed. I like it. Yes. I think that we have a tendency to think that because someone is an introvert, they do not like to be with people. I think sometimes that is the case, but the majority of the time, it's a different ratio. It's a different intake level. And there's a different need to replenish and different ways to replenish. An extrovert may often replenish by being with people, and then when they're full, then they go and spend some time alone. Yeah. An introvert may often, replenish by themselves, fill the tank, and then when they feel recharged, then they go into the world and meet with people. But to think that because one is an introvert, one is solitary by definition and disconnected from others, I don't think is capturing the range of what introversion includes. Same for extroversion, for that matter. But you said something at first about the distinction between eroticism and sexuality, and why I said modernity has narrowed the definition of eroticism in very sexual terms. Sexually as well, people know that you can do a lot of things and feel nothing or very little. People know that in the erotic, you can do very little and feel a ton because your imagination is active, because your creativity is writing, because your longing is singing. When I translate it like that, I have really wanted to bring back a word that describes such important parts of our lives and that we have kind of allowed to be narrowed and reduced, and it's not really helping us.
You meditate, you read every article you can find about mental health and mindfulness, you journal, and yet certain thoughts still feel impossible to let go of, like they're stuck in your mind. It might be a nagging worry that you've accidentally said something offensive and everybody secretly hates you, or a terrifying image of yourself suddenly losing control and doing something completely out of character, or perhaps it's a sudden fear that a mild ache near your chest is actually a massive heart attack. Many people experience these types of intrusive thoughts, but if they are on a persistent loop and create intense distress and drive you to search endlessly for answers or a way to stop them, you might be dealing with OCD. OCD is nothing like the stereotypes that you may have come across. It can latch on to anything you care about, from relationships to health, mortality, identity, and more. Because it's widely misunderstood, many people suffer in silence for years, unaware that they have a common and highly treatable condition. The thing is, OCD needs specialized therapy. Standard talk therapy actually isn't recommended for OCD and can actually make it worse. That's where NOCD comes in. NOCD is the world's leading provider of specialized OCD treatment. All of their licensed therapists are trained to treat OCD with exposure and response prevention, or ERP therapy, the most effective treatment available. They offer virtual sessions, they accept insurance for over 155 million Americans, and they create a judgment-free space where you can learn to manage OCD and start getting your life back. With NOCD, you'll also have support between your therapy sessions, so you're never alone. You can DM your therapist, connect with others in the NOCD community, and use self-help tools to help you stay on track, all in the NOCD app. If this sounds like you or somebody you love, head on over to NOCD and book a free 15-minute call with their team. That's NOCD.com to learn more and start getting help. Owning a home is amazing until it's not. My wife and I own our first house. I've owned apartments before, but never a house. And dude, one moment everything's going great. The next moment you got a broken heater or the AC's not working or a burst pipe, and it's like a lot of money to fix it. Repairs do not care about timing, and they definitely don't care about your budget. So you protect your health, your car, even your phone, but what about your home? It's probably your biggest investment if you own a home. And when things go wrong, the costs can hit hard and it can hit fast. Regular homeowners insurance usually does not cover a lot of the day-to-day wear and tear, plumbing failures, HVAC breakdowns, electrical issues. You're often on your own for that stuff, and that is where HomeServe comes in. It's like a subscription for your home. For as little as $4.99 a month, they've got your back. So in a moment when you have an acute need, you could be searching in panic, or you could already be on the phone with HomeServe's 24/7 hotline scheduling your repair. It's super simple. You choose a plan that works for your needs and your budget. And when something on your plan goes wrong, you just call the 24/7 hotline and you start the repair process. They've helped homeowners for more than 20 years with a trusted national network of 2,600 local contractors. With 4.5 million customers, a 4.8 out of 5 post-repair rating, and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, they're the real deal. I've been talking to my wife about this. This seems like something we could really use given the chaos we've endured with our home, which we love, but also kind of hate at the same time. So you might want to check it out. Help protect your home systems and your wallet with HomeServe against covered repairs. Plans start at just $4.99 a month. Go to homeserve.com to find the plan that's right for you. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range from $4.99 to $11.99 a month for your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs. One of the things you said earlier that I do want to kind of double click on, because I just see it in my own life and I see it in the research, in the science, that while our interpersonal lives can be fraught and difficult at times, at the end of the day, we do need other people in order to reduce our stress. Like many of the things that are bothering us, stress, overwhelm, anxiety, can be, medicated through friendship. And through being with other people. And that feels like an overlooked lever in
Yes,
our.
absolutely. Absolutely. But as you were talking, I thought there is one other dimension that I would love to add to your first question, which is the spiritual dimension.
Mm.
Everyone knows that the most religious poems can be deeply erotic, and the most erotic poems are highly spiritual. These two dimensions are very interconnected. Why? Because it has a transcendent element to it, because it has a kind of an abandon to it, because it allows us to be carried into a realm of mystery and unknown, which is what spirituality is, a beautiful vocabulary for that. So this time of year, I've been going to places where I watch people sing together. And it is an incredible thing because the resonance of unison, of voices that come together, is probably one of first of all, the most ancient or the more ancient and connective technologies that we have ever developed. You do not need to know the person next to you. You do not need to speak the same language as the person next to you. You just have to hum with them, and you meet at a level of resonance that is. Talk about de-stressing. It's really, really significant. Now, it is true that some of the sources of our stress come from people around us. And it is equally true that some of the best way we can alleviate, and I prefer the word alleviate than medicate, our stress, our tension, our despair, our anxiety, our angst, comes from being with people. One person, doesn't have to be people in the plural, comes from our connection to other human beings. And more importantly, it's not always a verbal connection. That's the thing I'm trying to say. And these days, since we have been texting nonstop, it's been, on the one hand, people have never written as much as they do today. We've really become an epistolary culture. On the other end, we are only relying on words when this happens. There's a whole contextual way that we communicate with each other that has to do with shared understandings and shared histories and nonverbal cues and body language. And deep context that gives meaning to communication that at this moment we are not engaged with enough. We're primarily dealing with what is called cold information, not warm information. So I load the erotic into that. To me, these things are very much interconnected. But you were asking me a different question, and I went back to the previous one, and so remind me. I
You're
took off
always,
in a different direction.
whatever direction you go in, I like. But what I was just asking about is the
People, the
mechanism
need
by
of
which
people.
we co-regulate.
We co-regulate by putting a hand on the knee, on the shoulder, on the neck, what we call the bony handles of our bodies, where we ground someone. We co-regulate by breathing together. We co-regulate by singing together. We co-regulate through eye contact. We co-regulate by offering consolation and empathy and reassurance. It's all of those mechanisms that regulate us. But I am not someone who's talking about the nervous system is familiar to me, but it's not exactly my vocabulary. That doesn't mean it's not an essential component. But when I talk about co-regulation, I think of it, and I'm going to give you one example that I find very interesting. So yesterday, I had a couple that is going to be coming onto the podcast soon on Where Should We Begin? And at one point, the woman gets agitated and upset, and he tries to reach out. And as he tries to reach out, she could say, this is really nice to hear. This is what I've been waiting to hear. But what happens to her is that she says, what took you so long? Now? After all this? So I said, then he reaches out with his hands. And then she gives him the hand, but then she takes it back. And then she gets upset that she's upset. Mm. And that he's not able to make her be not upset. And then I said, here's, for me, one of the most powerful images of regulation. And it comes from watching babies. You see a baby in the crib that is standing there and shaking it and saying, pick me up, pick me up. Then you pick them up. And what is the first thing that they do? They arc. They arc back. They have a curve in their back. They open their hand, their shoulder, and slowly you shake them gently. You rock them, not shake them. You rock them, and slowly, slowly, slowly do they move their body forward and they let it drop onto your chest. We see it in kids and we understand it very, very well. When you are dysregulated, you arc, and it takes a while till you are able to fold yourself and trust and connect to the source of comfort that is right next to you. That's what you're referring to, the return to people. But for an adult, it's the same thing. It's just that we don't visualize the arcing of the adult. All we see is the adult who, instead of saying thank you, says fuck you. And yet, it's like the most important part about regulation is pacing. If I need you to calm down quick because I actually can't tolerate your being agitated because it agitates me, then we are actually not co-regulating. We are co-stressing.
One of my perhaps glib little expressions is that I think about the human curse as we need other people in order to flourish, and other people are a gigantic pain in the ass.
It's not the same people. That's the good thing. It's not. That's the good thing. It's not the same people.
Well,
we absolutely need
in your
other people
marital
to flourish.
life, it sometimes is.
Yes, in your marital life, that is one of the beautiful paradoxes of a long-term relationship. And it is true also between parents and children.
Yes.
I love you. I hate you. I need you. I don't want to need you. We are constantly straddling, I want to please you, but I also want to stay true to myself. I want to stay true to myself, but I don't want to lose you in the process. I want to make my own decisions, but I also am caring about what effects they have on you. That whole dance there it's the core dynamic of relationships, period. All of them, by the way, but especially between children and parents, and especially in even in friendships, in relationships that involve love in the broad sense of the word. But you can have many, many friends. And of course, you can have more than one partner, but the majority of us at this point don't. So we are, in a cycle, what I call often hostile dependency, right? I need you for things to be better. I need you to change, but you're not doing it. So I get angry at you. And the more I get angry at you, and the more I need you to be the one to change. And the less you change, and the more angry I become, and the more dependent I am on you to actually do the changing. So we are in this hostile dependence. The more you do this, the more I feel that. And the more I do that, the more you feel this. So it's a fantastic dance that partners do.
That is such an incredible term, and a hostile dependency.
Yes.
It can be true in romantic relationships, parent,
work relationships too. Yes,
business,
all of them.
colleagues.
All of them. All of them. Because our tendency is to think that the change has to come often from the other side, and that the cause of the misery is created by the other side. So I need you to do something different and change. And that needing you means I depend on you, but you're not necessarily responding to my request. So I get pissed. And the more I get pissed, the more I need you. It's an once you know the term, you're going to watch it and see it in many places then.
So my point in steering us into talking about some of the many difficulties of interpersonal relationships was not to discourage people, but I think people often do get discouraged by the fact that interpersonal work is hard, and we're now raising a generation of people who are, and I don't blame the young people for this. I blame myself and my generation for this, for raising these kids without a lot of interpersonal skills. Then they go to a party, they feel anxious, and they decide, well, I'm never going to go to a party again. And I think this is true for young people and plenty of people who are not young. And it's just I'm trying to get us back to this fundamental truth that even though it is difficult often to deal with other people, we do need other people, whether we're an introvert or an extrovert, in order to do this life successfully.
It's become in vogue to say that it's difficult to be with people. But if we switched it around on a cultural basis, and we said it's actually really difficult to be so alone, to have no best friends, to not have dates, to be single for life, to talk to a bot, in order to make us feel better. And if we switch the dominant narrative and we actually said it's being alone that is really challenging. Being with people, it's not simple, but it's not that it's that constantly difficult. I think we would create a different reality. Language shapes the experience. At this moment, we, partly because of the isolation that we have experienced through the pandemic, partly because we are, talking in our phones the whole day. There's a ton of reasons why we are out of practice and why we are socially atrophied and we are being de-skilled in our human interactions. But I think that we should not start from the premise that being with people or relationships are painful, depleting, sucking you dry. I think we have to start from the other side. Otherwise, we collude with something. Societies have had relationships forever. Yes, they're messy. They're messy. That is true. They're not perfect. They don't have, they involve a ton of friction. Friction is a word that I like a lot, especially if I talk about eroticism. But they are as important as food. And people have the ability of say there is nutritious food, delicious food, fast food, healthy food. We make distinctions. When we say relationships are difficult, some relationships are really depleting. Some relationships are the meaning. Some. And some relationships are the complete opposite. And I think we have to not use the word relationships. We have to be more discerning, the same way that we would do with food and other things. It'll help us on a societal level.
I agree with you completely. There was a guest on this show, Ingrid Clayton recently who said, wounding happens in relationship, but healing happens in relationship.
That's correct. That's correct.
If we're looking to get more eroticism in our lives, I think it might be worth talking about how exactly to do that. One of the things that you recommend is a kind of gentle self-audit to get a sense of like what lights you up.
Because, we have relationships with others, but we also have relationships with different parts of ourselves. So we live in relationships. People think that because you don't see other people, you don't have relationships. Oh, yes, you do. You have plenty of relationships with the parts of you that live inside of you, with the various things that you have internalized over your life. So you are continuously in a relational system. That, I think, needs to be really established. Now, I ask people, when's the last time you felt alive? And it's really a very broad swath of experiences that people talk about. I was at sea and I suddenly kind of was swimming and I wasn't thinking anymore. I was just in this vast openness. I climbed a mountain. I crafted my first pottery. I mean, it covers the range. I was at a soccer game and we just cheered the thing and I felt completely identified with my team, etc. It's really beautiful as a question, actually. When's the last time you felt alive? Sometimes it's when I was holding my baby in my hands. I mean, it's very broad. And so what lights you up is that question. It doesn't mean what excites you. It doesn't mean what gives you butterflies in your stomach. It's actually often very subtle. It's not big things. And I like it because it challenges us from this kind of, big bang.
I have a very close friend, a fellow Belgian, like you. Her name is Dahlia, and we were out to dinner. Dahlia's family and my family are very close. And we were out to dinner recently, and Dahlia snapped a picture of me talking to her husband, who's one of my best friends, and their son. And I just had this, I was in the midst of this huge laugh. And
Mm-hmm.
she sent me the picture, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is what happens. This is me feeling alive. This is what happens when you're with people you love.
I mean, and laughter is such a state of abandon. When you're in the middle of a laughter, unless you're being jolted out of it by something massively, surprising or scaring or disruptive, you are lost for a minute. You're in it. I love to go to see plays and live shows where people laugh. It's probably one of the most difficult things, right? To make people laugh. I've had a number of conversations with Trevor Noah about that. What is it? What is the role of humor? I think humor is another dimension of aliveness because humor gives you perspective, right? Humor gives you control over a situation and allows you to change its meaning and its impact. That too is where Berger's theory on laughter is also very important. So there's a lot of things that make us feel alive. That's what I often am trying to engage with. People putting their hands in the earth, digging. Children dig, they dig holes wherever they can. That is also alive. You encounter other creatures. By the way, I think the relationship is very important to add is really not just with the people. It's beyond the human. We call it beyond human. It is, and it involves primarily nature, and art and technology even too. But it is really beyond human. I think the most important piece is to say that healing or connection is relational and that it's the relational dimension of our lives that is essential. Then we can look at what is it that you are relating to? Where do your relationships flourish and exist? People is a central pole and it's extremely important, but it is not the only one. People lying in nature, it can have an effect on them that is calming, soothing, healing, more than people. So I think what's beautiful about your question is that it's broad actually. And that joins your introverts too. If it's not people for you, what is it? What is the place that you experience connection? What is the place that opens possibilities or helps you close those that need closure. It goes in both directions. It's life and death. And by the way, there's another word we haven't used that is essential to this conversation. It's rituals. Mm. Rituals is what every civilization has created in order to help us with the beginnings, the endings, and the transitions. Transitions from morning to night, transitions from holy to secular, transitions, from healthy to not well. And rituals are these symbolic, situations. They are habits that are invested with creativity and intention. And so they are highly staged. They are repetitious. They find their power and their meaning by the sheer repetition over centuries, by people who have no idea how this came into being. And then they morph, they transform, they take on new pieces. Who knows what it once looked like? And sometimes it's called an ancient ritual because it actually didn't really change much. But rituals is essential in the relationship to the erotic.
You may be like me in this regard. You may be over the whole new year, new you thing. You may believe that short-term fads do not deliver long-term results. But what does deliver is science, especially when it comes to skincare. That's why I use OneSkin. Their formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science, proven to target aging at the cellular level. It's not about adding extra steps to your routine. It's about swapping in smarter ones. Good folks over at OneSkin sent my wife and I a box of their products. We both were very favorably impressed. And I love knowing I'm supporting the cellular repair that keeps my skin looking and feeling better as I get older. Known for their cult favorite formulas like OS1 Body, OS1 Face, and OS1 Eye, OneSkin stands out for their science-first approach to aging, validated in 5 separate clinical studies, delivering hydration, barrier strengthening, and visible improvements to the skin with every product. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the code HAPPIER at oneskin.co/happier. That's up to 30% off with the code HAPPIER. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. The best B2B marketing often gets wasted on the wrong people. I can't tell you how often I'm scrolling and I get served ads for stuff I have no interest in. So when you want to reach the right professionals, use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has grown to a network of over 1 billion professionals, including 130 million decision makers. And that's where it stands apart from other ad buys. You can target your buyers by job title, industry, company, role, seniority, skills, company revenue, so you can stop wasting budget on the wrong audience. It's why LinkedIn ads generates the highest B2B return on ad spend of all major ad networks. Seriously, all of them. Spend $250 on your first campaign on LinkedIn ads and get a $250 credit for the next one. Just go to linkedin.com/happier. That's linkedin.com/happier. Terms and conditions apply. I would imagine there are some people listening who don't have a lot of ritual in their lives. I think I'd probably put myself in that category. Like, how do we even begin to think about creating and then keeping up rituals?
I would start with morning and evening. What's something that you would do at night that acknowledges your day, that acknowledges the fact that you're going to sleep in your own bed, that you have a bed, that it's warm, especially now we are in a New York winter, that maybe there's someone lying next to you in bed. Maybe there's people lying in another room in your house. Is it about turning off the lights? Is it about going and visiting all the people that are sleeping there? Is it about calling someone? I have a friend who basically, I said, what is a major person in tech? And I said, what do you do? He says, every day I call one person before the day is over, just to check in on them. And that's a beautiful ritual. Morning is the same. When you wake up, instead of just grabbing your phone and, your desk is right as you come out of bed, what's a ritual that basically slows you down, grounds you in the moment, lets you remember this is a day. This is a day where that doesn't start by going to the doctor. This is a day where you are warm. This is a day where you're going to drink your tea, coffee, whatever you like in the morning. And you take a moment to acknowledge that. You can acknowledge it. Some people pray. I mean, that's part of what religion has given us, is this ability to do the prayers of the morning and the prayers of the night. For some people, it's prayers they create themselves. For some people, and I'm not talking about the way you take your coffee, because that's a habit. A ritual is a habit that is imbued with creativity and intention. So the intention is what gives it a symbolic meaning that is bigger than just the gesture. If every day the same cup of coffee that you make, you take one with you and you go to give it to a homeless person, it's not the fact that you give it to the homeless person, is that when you give it to the homeless person, you are also thinking, and I am not that person. I'm not on the street. I'm not destitute. I have more, and therefore I share. That's what makes it a ritual, not the giving of the coffee. It is the interpretation of it. Candles have been a majorly important element of rituals. Candles, have to do with memory and memorization. Candles have to do with celebration. Candles have to do with mourning and grief. I mean, what you will notice is that often in the ritual, the same rituals can be used on the on and on the off, on the beginnings and on the endings. Many people they bless the person next to them. So often it's children. It can be a blessing that you receive from your religion, can be your own blessing. Because when you bless, you really are saying this is not for granted. This is not a given, that this is going to be here always, anytime. So I acknowledge its fragility. I acknowledge that there is no love without the fear of loss. That's what the ritual says. So you can do rituals alone. You can do them en famille, together. That's why when people sit, they often first bless the food. I mean, it's endless. It's endless, the importance of ritual and the fact that we have lost a lot of them. We are lacking rituals at this moment. Transitional rituals, developmental rituals, we're really lacking. Bruce Feiler has just written another book, and his subject is rituals. And I think it's a super important dimension of life. At the end of the week is a ritual. Sunday morning is ritual, whichever way. But, somebody understood that after days of work, there needs to be a day of rest. And it's been adopted by all the monotheistic religions. Whichever version you do, stop. Stop one day or one moment in your week from doing to being, from producing to reaping and to reflecting. That is a super important moment, because we have had rituals to regulate time and space. Right now, given that we are 24/7 attached to our devices, there is no separation of time. And if we work at home and all our roles are actually executed in one chair and it's the same one all the time, we no longer have demarcation and delineation. So we are getting extremely confused. And rituals help us with these demarcations. Is that enough examples, or you want more?
No, it's great. Just to say about Bruce Feiler, who's been on this show many times. I actually just got an email from him yesterday about his new book on rituals, so I suspect he'll be back on this show soon.
Yeah.
But Esther, before we lose you, there's a big thing I want to talk to you about, which is at times in this conversation, you and I have talked about the importance of having contact with other people as part of what we understand to be eroticism. And a lot of people, when I go out and talk about the importance of community, will say, well, how do you do it? How do you, I don't know that many people, or I just moved to a new place. You actually have a lot of thoughts about how we can create community. If they're escaping you, I'll tee you up with your own ideas. But let me shut up and see what comes to your mind immediately.
It'd be interesting to see if I respond. I often don't respond twice the same way. But, you arrive to a new place. If you are by yourself, I think the coffee shop. But the coffee shop has now become another place where people sit with their laptops, so they don't look up anymore. So then you have to catch them when they're in line, because there they often are waiting to be served, so their eyes are up and so they can actually see you. And then it starts with small talk, which I think is extremely important. You know, what do you order here every day? Do you have the same order every morning? And then, people, or this looks really delicious, or I really like what you wear, or something that makes a person smile, and that in itself makes us feel a lot better. From that moment, there is will I see you here tomorrow? Are you here every day? It's these small micro moments that are beyond important. Everybody knows that pets and children, small children in particular, are amazing ambassadors for connection. People walk their dogs, they talk to each other. They want to know about the dogs, they want to know about the relationship, etc. People have young children, it instantly puts a ready-made community in front of you. You have interests. At this moment, you see there's a proliferation of small social communities, from mahjong to any other game. People to paddle, to pickle, to people are coming together to play. You don't have to go to talk necessarily. Go to Central Park here in New York. If you don't know anybody, bring your little paddle and start playing with people. You will then come back and you will see some people again, and there is such a welcoming attitude. If it's rock climbing, it's another thing. If it's biking, it's another. I mean, honestly, I think meeting people through something that you like to do, that is important, whether it's writing, drawing, book clubs. I mean, we are at this moment really fully invested in creating small group experiences. You see it everywhere. So that's one. Now, in New York, where I live often, I ask people, when's the last time you had someone in your house or in your home? Because I want to know, is it a house or a home? Is it a place where you put your stuff, or is it actually a home? And then I say, look, just invite someone. I want you within the next week to invite somebody to come to your home. Someone you've wanted to get to know more. It doesn't have to be someone you already know. Someone you're just curious about, that you think you could have a nice chat with, or that you want to share whatever, your music, whatever you want to do. Then you say to that person, how about you bring someone and I bring someone? Or you bring two and I bring two. And we just do breakfast together and we cook it together. These things do not have to cost much. We each bring a small something. Each person bringing someone new is the way that you really build the village. I think it's one of the most fruitful and easy ways to do. But you have to be able to say, I want to invite you. B, potentially be told, no, I'm not that interested. It's okay. It's not a massive rejection. It's just somebody who may not be interested, or for a host of reasons we won't get into. And 3, go back to the next person. Work used to be an amazing place for that. I really think that for many people, the working from home is really deleterious in terms of the cultivation of social circles, rituals of after work drinks together, and all of that stuff that you have to go seek it now. It's not structural in your everyday life, and that demands initiative and confidence and less anxiety and all these things that we are overly focused on, that we think prevent us from creating community. I think religious communities are essential. It's the holiday. There are plenty of houses of worship of every kind under the sun, where you come together with other people and you reflect on life, and it's warm and all of that. You don't necessarily have to interact always with the people. You can be sharing an event with the people. Live concerts is another major one. I mean, if I make a list, there are lots of things. There's actually a long list. And here's what people tell me, is that it's not that people don't know what to do. It's that they're losing the energy, the erotic energy, really the life force to actually reach out and do this. They have to be really despairing. And none of these things you can optimize. None of these things can be put into numbers. They give you meaning. They give you a sense that if you wake up, it matters to somebody else, which is essential to us. We are creatures of meaning. If I get up and it doesn't make a dent, if I'm around or not, and nobody cares, I'm going to really lose my taste for living. Was I consistent, or did I
Very,
did I
very
say no?
consistent. And you added things that were not on my list. I would add one thing, which is
Yes,
volunteering.
please. Absolutely. Thank you.
I feel like a common denominator among, coursing underneath all many of your suggestions here is a kind of courage that can be hard to muster, especially if you've been sapped of your vitality by modern life.
Yes, I think that that's the atrophy that I'm talking about. If I'm going to talk 20 times a day to a bot or to ChatGPT and ask questions and ask advice, etc., that's 20 times a day I'm not reaching out to people. If I have a predictive technology in my hand that tells me where to go, what to eat, what to listen to, what to watch, etc., I am not going to discover much on my own, and I'm going to lose the muscle for experimentation and discovery and serendipity and the unknown. And I'm going to become more and more anxious about anything that breeds uncertainty, even though uncertainty is kind of the synonym of living.
Mm.
You are right. It is a strange thing to hear someone say today, reaching out to people is become an act of courage. That is a sad statement about us. And the rest of the world doesn't live like that, by the way. We need to remember that. This is not universal. But to think that reaching out, connecting with people is courage is very reflective of what has happened to us. And you're not the only one who says it like that.
You launched a Substack recently called Entre Nous, and you and I were doing a Substack live, and you made a point that I feel like coming back to, and it's related to how we are with other people. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to recapitulate this accurately, but it's something about the value of we think in our culture about what we deserve and what we and self-affirmation and standing up for ourselves, but there's a certain amount of responsibility that we have to other people that we sometimes forget about. Am I making sense here?
Entre nous, which in English is between us, is by definition relational. It's between us. I'm going to whisper something. It's between us. We trust each other. It's between us, meaning it relates to each of us. It's very much a relational term. I have created, because I am concerned about this, the challenge of dealing with the messiness and the friction of relationships. I created the card game. Where should we begin? I created the podcast. I created Substack. I am constantly thinking, how do I bring people to stay connected to other people without thinking that it's an act of courage, actually? But we are in a society, particularly here, that is highly individualistic, that really created this notion that autonomy, self-reliance, independence, separateness is really the norm. It's the sign of strength and resilience and all of that. And I want to say that, in fact, relying on others, asking for help, offering help to others, asking others, what do I need to do? What am I responsible for? Translating the term belonging, not just from the point of view of I'm accepted, I am seen, I am welcomed. No, belonging in every group has always meant, and I follow those rules, and these are my assignments, and this is my responsibility. And in order to belong to a group, it's a dyadic relationship. The fact that we have taken the word belonging and turned it into, appeasement to the self is another one of these crazy transformations in the relational field, like the courage one. Belonging has always been a combination of acceptance and duty, obligation, responsibility. Many groups still do it. But when you talk about I want to feel a sense of belonging, it's a one-way street at this moment. So I think that there has been such an emphasis on the self that it disregards the relational dimension of what we owe others. It emphasizes what happened to us. It puts a high focus on our own traumas, and it often leaves us able to pass next to others that have deep needs from us that we don't think we are responsible to address. So that's where your voluntarism comes in, because giving is receiving. When you give to others, you receive something back, not from them, from the act itself. I've been involved with organ donation in the last few years, and it's really been interesting to watch that what does it mean to give a part of oneself to someone, and how do people experience this gift as something that gives them a whole new meaning and give the gift of life often, right? So it's interesting, this notion of how do we maintain accountability, responsibility, a sense that I have something to offer to the collective and not just what is the collective doing for me. And I think that part of what this individualism that has been so glorified has also led to the fact that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 Americans is currently cut off from their family members, a family member, which is a staggering number. Staggering. Because if it doesn't suit me, if it's hurtful to me, if it's distressing, if it's uncomfortable, if it's all these things, I don't have to. And that is another major development, the unraveling of certain relational ties because of how they affect me, rather than you live with them in life. In collective societies, it's not like their relationships are necessarily better, but there's this whole management system in place for dealing with the people you have to see that you don't want to see.
Of course, if
without idealizing, there's no ideal place on the planet, but there are different responses to stresses.
Just to be clear, if somebody's a bully or has harmed you in some significant way, I think we can all agree a boundary can be drawn. But I think what you're arguing is that we're too easily cutting people off because they make us uncomfortable.
Yes, but I also would like to redefine the word boundary. Boundary is a dimension of any relational system. Every relationship has boundaries. Porous boundaries, normal boundaries, impermeable boundaries, thick ones that you can't get in and out of. It's the same as every system. Every relationship has hierarchy and a power dynamic. It's to say every relationship has boundaries. Boundaries is not just an act of self-protection. Boundaries is a clarification of roles. If we are to be together at this holiday coming up, we don't talk about my being gay. We don't talk about my not having kids. We don't talk about the fact that I'm not married. We don't talk about your divorce or my divorce. We don't talk about the fact that you made money and I have none. That's the boundary. And it's not just self-protective. It regulates the relationship. It says we exist within this framework. Within this framework, we have a ton of different things we can interact upon. So I think it's important to understand that boundary is actually a way to stay in relationship, not a way to cut off a relationship. Nedrata Wab talks about that a lot as well. I agree very much with that view. That doesn't mean you stay in violent situations, but if it's 1 in 3, it is more than just the dire conditions.
I feel very responsible to keep an eye on the clock here because we are out of time, and I want to be respectful of your time. Let me just say in closing 2 things. First, everybody listening should check out Esther's new Substack called Entre Nous. Also, her podcast Where Should We Begin, which is also a board game, which you should check out, and her books State of Affairs and Mating in Captivity, both excellent. And then the second thing I want to say is thank you. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
I always enjoy our conversations. Thank you so much.